We'll just give a few seconds for people to join us. I hope everyone's staying safe, staying healthy out there. We have quite a few big announcements to make today. We also have a big day with a lot of different things happening throughout the day. So I want to thank everyone who will be joining us throughout the day, and obviously for this special announcement that we make this morning. My name is Doly Begum, your MPP for Scarborough Southwest. To all of you in Scarborough Southwest, as well as across this province who's joining us, I thank you all for your time and for the work that you've been doing throughout this pandemic to keep each other safe, keep your neighbors safe, keep your community safe. Before I go into the housing announcement that we are going to make in just a few minutes, I just want to take a moment to reflect on what we woke up to this morning. This morning, we heard that there was a new COVID record in Ontario. About 1,575 cases were recorded today, 18 more deaths. Medical experts predict that we'll get to about 2,000 cases per day, which is triple the amount we had in our first wave. And we also know that in long-term care homes, cases of seniors have doubled, staff cases have doubled, and deaths of seniors have doubled as well. And all of this is happening while we have a government that's sitting on $9.3 billion. We're lacking in safety equipment, we're lacking in safety in schools, in long-term care homes, many of these hot zones for COVID, and yet this government has failed over and over again. And this morning, I think, was another reminder of the amount of times that the Ford government and the Minister of Health, Minister of Long-Term Care, Minister of Education have outright lied to the people of this province. We also have, well, yesterday we remembered our veterans. We commemorated the soldiers who went to war for us. We remembered all those who never came back, those who did return, but are suffering physically, mentally, family members who also had to suffer. We commemorated the soldiers who recently went into the long-term care homes, revealed the appalling truth in those homes. And we celebrated and honored all of those who continue to risk their lives to protect us, to protect this nation. And as we commemorate them, as we honor them, I didn't get to spend time in the basements of our Legion halls, talk to many of the veterans that I get to every year. And especially with what's happening right now, I just want to take a moment to talk about what true honoring means. Because when we talk about honoring our soldiers, and we'll hear governments after governments talk about, how we recognize the people who sacrifice for us. Well, when we honor these soldiers, when we honor our veterans, how are we protecting them with the support they need? When our veterans come home and they need mental health support, are we honoring them with the support they need? Are we leaving them stranded? Do they have a roof on top of their head, or are we leaving them to homelessness? Imagine seeing a soldier, someone who went to war for us, lining up at a food bank. And that's the reality right now. We have people across this province that need our support. And we cannot talk about honoring these individuals if we don't address homelessness, if we don't address the long lines at food banks, if we don't address the support we need with mental health across this province, if we don't address the monstrosity that's happening in long-term care homes. You know, this announcement that we're going to make, uh, it's a plan to address the housing crisis that we're facing in this province. And I want to hear from all of you who's joining us today. I want to hear your thoughts. I want to hear your questions. And I want to hear your feedback on the plan that we have, because this plan will address the crisis we have with housing for folks across this province. Because we need to make sure that people have a roof on top of their head. People can dream of buying a home one day. It is becoming impossible to rent apartments, let alone imagine buying a property in this province, in this city, in Scarborough Southwest. And as we face the reality of COVID-19, the struggles that people have, the job losses, the loss of livelihoods, we have to have plans that work for everyone. We have to make sure that we're providing the support that people need to get back up. I want to tell you a little bit about the housing plan, and feel free to let me know if you have questions about what's going on in the province. I'm sure you're seeing the news about the COVID numbers. I'm sure you're seeing what's happened in our long-term care homes, and I'm sure you're hearing about the way that people have been impacted due to COVID-19. So as I take a few moments to tell you a little bit about our housing plan, and I think we're live on Facebook and YouTube and on Twitter as well. So I'm going to try to see if I could see some of the comments that are coming in on each one of them. So bear with me for a moment. So while we get people to chime in, let me just tell you a little bit about some of the things that we're hoping to address in the housing plan, because this plan is to support families across this province, no matter your income level, the way we have been really thinking about your next generation as well as the immigrant families. I see Mo Auntie joined as well. She said buying property is becoming the hardest dream. It is. It really is. And our plan is committed to creating a new market, really, which will help you afford homes. And it's to make sure that we help families we're talking about down payment, we're talking about mortgages, giving renters the ability to afford an apartment and live locally in an area that they have lived for years and years. Making sure that there is more security in the homes that you live in, making sure that we're putting people's needs ahead of the needs of giant corporate managements and big developers. I also see Hamid Rahman joined in as well, who said, what is the housing plan? So I'm so excited to actually present the housing plan, and I will tell you a little bit about it, but in just a few minutes, I will have our leader, Andrea Horvath, the leader of the official opposition, joining me to tell you all of the different parts of our housing plan and the commitment to make sure that people can afford a home, people can live in the areas that they grew up, and making sure that our community feels safe and welcomed in the different neighborhoods that we live in. And the reality is, I think, is to make sure that we're actually creating incentives for people to be able to have, especially young people, to have that dream, uh, to be able to think that they're going to one day buy their own home. We should also make sure that some of the hubs that we have locally, you have affordable rental properties. During the middle of the pandemic, we saw some of the big corporate management threatening just 10 minutes from here. We have giant buildings where tenants were threatened. People were told that they will be evicted if they don't pay their rent in the middle of a pandemic when people lost their homes. And if we're in the middle of a crisis and you cannot have that security, we really need to rethink our plan. So this housing plan is one that addresses all of these concerns. We talked about renters and the conditions they live in. We're also talking about fixes that we need. We also need to talk about some of the sometimes we have had renters who have complained about some of the situations in their apartments, and years go by and nothing gets fixed. You have mold in homes that doesn't get addressed. We also have had so many people reach out to our office throughout the past 6-7 months, but even before that, before the pandemic, where people have had to decide whether they're going to pay their rent or put food on the table. I remember meeting with people in our Teesdale buildings just recently, just maybe a month or two ago, where we had tenants who literally had to decide whether they're going to pay their rent or buy their medicines. Um, the situation in the middle of a pandemic, it was so dire that people had to, if you're put in a situation where you're having to decide between food and medicine and your rent, we have to really walk back and rethink the whole system. And right now, the system is not working for people. Right now, we have a government that's not helping the people of this province. We also need to talk about the fact that we have small landlords, we have homeowners who put everything they have together. Came with, we have husband, wives, in-laws, parents, everyone that basically came together to buy one property. And sometimes this is all they have. A lot of immigrant families we have in Scarborough Southwest, who, this is the one investment they made. And during the pandemic, we saw the government provide no support with mortgages. They were able to give banks, support more than the people across this province. We even had the federal government that bailed out, big banks, big corporations, but did not stand up for people to sustain their investment, to keep up with their mortgages. We also saw housing lists become longer. The wait time for Housing Connect, we have over 12,000 people who are waiting for homes, for housing. And this is one of the cases where I have the hardest time because we get so many applicants who come into our office and ask for support, and there just isn't homes for them. It's heartbreaking because some of the applicants are elders. A lot of our A lot of the people who are now renting their homes, they're either retired, um, some injured workers, people who have, who have larger families now, and just are crammed in their apartments, waiting for housing. And um, and we have situations where people uh, have been told that they have to either wait for 7, 8, 15 years before they will get any housing, any affordable housing. And what it really means is, and this is the most heartbreaking part when I talk to some of these folks who come to see me at the office, is that there are people with terminal illnesses who will say, I may not live for that long. There are people who are on the priority list, or the so-called priority list, because of their medical conditions, and yet don't think that they will live that long enough to actually see the day where they will get a call and have their housing application confirmed, accepted, and get an affordable home for them. Um, we we have shelters that are packed during the outbreaks. We know from so many shelters, so many shelter workers who connected with us about the situations that they were in. Um, there were so many uh, factors to that, but the one part that I think was the most disturbing fact, that while this government is sitting on this COVID response money from the federal government, we had people line up for shelter space, were turned away, but then were on the streets. And we knew one of the worst ways to spread this virus was people who don't have a home, people who are stuck on the streets, people who are in unsafe conditions. Um, and the government did nothing to help that situation. Um, I see that there is a comment from Maruf Hassan, who said that um, the rising property value during the pandemic. Yeah. So this is a big point in our platform as well. So I will let Andrea talk about it, because I don't want to give away some of the main components of the plan. We're just going to join in the next few minutes. So I'm glad you're all here. I'm going to actually invite Andrea to join me in the next few minutes to talk about this, because housing property values have gone up. It's almost impossible for people to even imagine buying a home. So some of the key aspects actually addresses all of these concerns. So we'll be leaving this live, but I will be back on all the same platforms right here in just a few seconds.